Okay, everyone. Here we are. Taking some water. You can take advantage, drink some water. This message is about to quench your thirst. Love it. Yeah, so as you know, this is really a series, and I just had this whole moment where I kind of became aware of the perception of what I've been doing, and I became sort of visibly aware of like online personas, but what that experience can be like when it creates this whole separate individual entity sort of, and that's what this space really is anyways. And so this is all about the humongous messages that are coming in right now. I mean, it's coming like plutonium, you know what I mean? Like, it's coming in as deeply self-aware, deeply honest, deeply justice, right? Like just what is, in terms of your perception of yourself and how that aligns with how that affects other people and the things around you, your ecosystem. It's also like deeply, deeply, deeply nourishing to know that this was something that was notably remembered as a fragment of like your unconscious. So like this is something that like I feel like there's something that's undeniably true and honest and authentic about the subconscious in people. As an Aquarius, I feel like a lot of the times when I'm making close bonds with people, it's usually people who I really, really like their 12th house, because I feel like that's my moon placement, and I feel really comfortable, excuse me, and consoled in the presence of someone with like a really interesting or intricate 12th house, or like a subconscious space. So to me, this fortune coming to pass really denotes that your subconscious space is this beautiful landscape that also now you are really excited to explore. Like really, like you've been really waiting for things to get for real, and they're really about to get for real. Like you're really about to see yourself eject from the matrix and eject fully and embody and commit the holistic truth of like who you are and how you want to live and what you believe the future looks like and what you're doing to achieve the future that you believe is going to happen for you and the world that you live in. And so it's so beautiful because it's a bunch of just like infinite connections, and you really fixating yourself in a role and in a position and in a posture that can support generations and generations to have access to consciousness as a movable token of energy and currency, and let them have and seize as many of the opportunities and choices as are possible. And this can really be found in our natural world. And right now, as it's funny I mentioned my Taurus moon, but this sort of this nodal activation with the Taurus North Node right now, which even if you're not watching this in this time period, like it's the type of thing where the energy that you're feeling is that sort of Taurus, that sort of natural world, that sector of what is natural to us. But also it's interesting because what's opening up for me right now really is like a future that's very real and very tangible, and very much me fully like knowing that pivoting in this way says like I want to fully be me and live my life the way that the real essence of who I am want to be. And this is reaching a culmination of an amount of work, right? It has to do with this year 7, but there's a certain amount of work that I feel like has been accumulated during this cycle, and in which you're going to be like really aware of and be able to reap a harvest. And you've found at this point a very formulaic way to navigate through life, and it's pretty tried and true, is what I'm getting. And because you rely so much on that, this is really cutting to the essence of the thing, and it's giving you stability in a whole new concept, in a whole new plane of existence, because to be stable in this new world would mean you'd have to rely on the things that you know will be there in the future. And what better way to subconsciously manifest our world existing into our future than to go into these industries and these places, these Aquarian ideals, where we rely once again on the natural world. It's now we're realizing that the crazy thing is to rely on the world that we want to be certainly here in the future, because that's what all this was about. That's what all this was paving the way for. And so sustainable, so renewable, so alive again, and really just where you end up kind of really proves that you need a certain consciousness to dwell here, because source spirit is back online within you. Like, you are back alive, you are reborn at this time, right? And it's so funny that that's kind of the energy of sort of the now moment. So yeah, we're gonna get into this message. We're gonna take some more water. This is really phenomenal. I'm gonna just frequently like do this so don't be overwhelmed. It's like taking the you that you are now and expanding upon it. Like, what comes into you, the composite value of, again, like we said, the work that's been built up over time up until this point is now being reflected in this pathway forward that really takes you to the new paradigm. Six of Swords. This is like really the travel. This is like really the movement there, moving through it instead of just still water, instead of just, and it's about inheriting the world essentially. So we've got Six of Swords, right, like we said, really moving to the new paradigm, what it was like in the boat, what it was like with all those swords surrounded by you, and how you had to keep preserving the truest parts of yourself. Because we know we're getting to the world at the end of this reading, right, which is the bare naked. This is the full exposed truth. But you knew while you were in the boat, you were authentic, but you were covered and you were protected. These clothes represent the protection that you had around you while you were really rowing in this boat with spirit towards the new paradigm. And in this moment, I just want to re-center and really like let go of any negative thoughts that are trying to keep me from feeling like I can take the space to channel this message right now, and that any of the other pertinent pressures that this energy that I acknowledge is thick right now is trying to permeate, like, are released at this time, and we're refocused and we're back. Let's bring the frequency right back up. Pierces right through that. Thank you, Spirit. Again, this is all about having the tools and being equipped to like really bring yourself back into your center. Like, as you can tell, I'm like sitting in my blanket. Like, I like to like be cold, but then be like warmed. So, anywho, we're refocusing back on this. But again, all of the things, the physical clothes that I'm wearing right now that are keeping me and protecting me from this certain energy that could be going on around me or could be distracting me from really committing and telling this clearly. So anyways, let's keep making it even clearer. We were sitting in the boat with all of these things. Remember, we talked about this in the last video and the video before that, whatever. We're sitting in this boat as we're headed to the new paradigm, right? And that just means we all made it to the new paradigm. That's the baseline similarity between the things you've been pretty much doing as of right now. Is that you made it to the new paradigm, which is great because, yeah, but then you get to the new paradigm and you realize, like, getting to the new paradigm just really had to mean you didn't want to, like, die and not keep growing or evolving. You know what I mean? Like, if you thought you were, like, good on, like, doing more work, then that's, like, why you're not here right now. At a soul level. But anybody else who's really here is really at a soul level, just, like, okay with, like, continuing to be open to the changes up until they're not, right? And so that's really what I feel like if you were to take a look around at your environment, it could kind of feel like that's pretty a sad existence though, right? Because when we're thinking about what is the base reason for why we're attracting something. Like that could be pretty general and could be kind of like homogenous or like way too large of a collective to really feel like an individual. So those could all have been themes that were permeating in the things that are on your mind right now, that this feels familiar, this like grouping and this transit by water. You know what I mean? Which means it was also a transit by water for in terms of developing your psychic abilities, right? Because water is that intuitive principle. So you are treading this experience. I can tell you from your spirit and from your sources saying this experience was to sharpen your intuition, your intuitive abilities, was to create and develop those intuitive abilities. And you were doing that because your intuitive antennas are running off the charts when it's coming up against all these other truths in this boat. But you're cloaked in this protective garb, and I've been getting all these downloads because I work in vintage and just in vintage clothing and reselling and things like that. And it's so funny because I'm really there right now because I was really learning this bigger download about the energetics of like the fabrics we adorn ourselves with. And so there's a lot of this death energy that's pervading by the continued ruined quality of the things we adorn our bodies with. Like virtually everything made now is so low quality and so harmful in terms of the suffering that's caused by the artisans and the abuse that's suffered of power to mass produce things. And the mass production isn't really the beast is ourselves, which is the overconsumption. So a note of space for that. But there's something to be said that I was really learning about, appreciating that sort of natural world and the natural fibers that are sweet and kind to our skin and don't do harm and damage to ourselves, not just at a physiological level, but also as a spiritual level, right? So there's something really to be said too, though. That's where this really has resonance, because this passage for me would really remind me of kind of like where I've been at with my work and what I've been like really learning from the job that I have right now. But then there's this arrival at land where you kind of look back, and then it's like once you get on land and you get off the boat and you just stand there at the dock for a second and you're like, oh, that's what I was doing. And that's kind of what's happening now, is I was getting taken to right here, and I have an opportunity right now to work with the earth directly as like a career. And we all know that would feel like life, and it would feel like getting paid to live life, you know what I mean? And I feel like it's a door that's opened from something that was in my subconscious, and it's just been beautiful watching my partner and I really grow in that natural direction. I've been sort of seeing seeds like sprout out of the soil a little bit in terms of new connections that I've had with people that have very similar values, I feel like, to me, because again, this is all based in 1313, which reduces to 4-4. Okay, so there's this stability, this foundation, like this is the very foundational stage of Pluto and Aquarius for the next 20 years. So this 20-year cycle, right, is opening up, and like I don't think anybody can think 20 years out unless it has in terms of the earth, right? Like in terms of like, what do you want to be here in 20 years? This planet, right? You know what I mean? So that's kind of the direct guidance. I'm not even trying to really influence, but I'm just saying. It's been the vibe. And so you get to the land and you're like, holy shit. And you look amazing, by the way. Because you get to the land after looking back at this and being like, oh, well, I guess it's like, yeah, it's like this. So here's this. Translate it like this. You know, and you look back and you're like, oh, wow. Okay, I just came out of this shoreline, out of this water. I was coming to the shore. Now I'm standing at the shore. And I'm looking back at what that just was. Treading through water also. It's funny that I've got this, we got this in the year of the water tiger, and it's like the perfect, it's huge also. Like this is a pretty big wall. I mean, I know it's like, I'm on the floor and it's like, it looks really small, but it's a very heavy, big, thick framed piece of art that's like super nuts if you saw it up close. But yes, this piece is very much, this is the kind of value we're cultivating. And I think I'm also seeing that, like, I guess Spirit had me like have this orientation in the house right now, because I feel like it's very much exposing like some of the elements of my home. But you know, I like to be really surrounded by like these treasures and these values, and you know, it's like, you know, you've arrived when everything feels that way, when it feels like you look around and everything around you has real innate value. You know what I mean? And you kind of can endlessly sustain off of this, and this is a good basis to be at. And it's also a good frame of reference of what to not stray too far from, because this means your needs are met. So getting also too excessive with innovating on top of this feeling can also really be something. But this feeling right now that we get to have, because we're enough, because we're recognizing radically what we're fucking enough for. What, like, no more do we need to live in the contrast. No more do we need to be next to something that's going in the opposite direction. Like, now we know flow. No longer are we placing ourselves in resistance by going with things that are going the opposite direction. Like, everything we're experiencing never being headed where we want to head, and then feeling heartbreak over and over and over and over again. Well, finally we stop, we turn around and we just flow, you know? And then we experience everything supporting us, because the current is pushing us from the back up, from forward, from the ground up, you know, sprouting out of the soil. That's what's happening to us right now. This is what the universe has been trying to allow to have, let you, to get you to really focus on. It's all flooding back, because it's the type of bite and connection and grounded experience. Like, for the first time, you can feel yourself being magnetized to things that also have, like, this hefty amount of, like, real reason, like, real shared experience, like, real connection, like, really having a basis to connect to someone else, being aligned in such a way that you're, like, really able to align to someone else, to something else. And when you get there, you give them the most authentic version of you, because you realize, with this backing, with this backdrop, with this setting, everything grows from this foundation. Like, if you were laying down and this circle was around you, like if this woman was flat on the ground on her back, she could, like, really sprout to life with this energy, you know? Because this is all the fixed signs. These are all the signs that won't budge. This is like earth pushing, giving you some, fire giving you some, air giving you everything, water giving you everything, giving you, they're all the elements are blasting in towards you. Like, if you're the center, all the elements, all four corners are blowing inwards towards you, that singular point. With this, you feel on fire, you feel authentic, you feel it burning through quickly too. I mean, notice the red, it's the Aries season red hair, but you're really burning through it quickly, and you're getting to the heart of who you've become, and you're realizing why you align to certain things, and maybe there's a future that everything is really abundant and really connected, you know? So this is really special. But yeah, so, you know, like I said, this new reality where you're working with renewable, sustainable resources, you are rested on the composite experience up until this point, because that is the outcome wasn't going to be something random that you had to obtain. The outcome was going to be whatever you got done. Everything that got done. Everything that got done is what you get to celebrate. That we're not, whatever didn't get done it doesn't even exist. You're not measured by that. It's really just how much did you grow? How much could you evolve, you know? There is no judgment here, and I feel like that's the beauty and the safety that we're gonna breathe into, because the only thing that would make you go from completely covered and clothed and protecting yourself to fucking vibrating could be that you were revealed your value. You can open up here because you feel valued. You can open up in this space now, because when you finally feel like you're seen for what you're worth, and like you can also sustain off this. So then came the real big message, and this one was the big, like, whew. Now Spirit's gonna say, this was the one and final spiritual test. And when you get to that very point, and you will know the point because you'll be at the point, or you're probably watching this video and it resonates all the way up until here. So when you're at this point, in theory, and it comes time to face judgment, which says, who am I and what am I here to do? Like, what am I going to do? And we were leading with authenticity. We really didn't feel the need to fit inside the framework. Like, if we want something, then say that you want something. Like, if this is my only time to be seen, like, I'm gonna be seen. Like, there's a level of that, like, you can connect and you can know that this connection is affirming a synchronicity that you feel, because it's like, if you can tell that if this was the one and only shot, they took it, you took it, we took the shot, you know what I mean, towards this. And we didn't put ourselves in a box, and we didn't have to change anything about ourselves. So anywho, God says, you get to this point, and there's a massive spiritual test, because there are two paths that open up in front of you. You're going to have to figure out which one leads you to the fire. And it's immediately after you traverse this journey, you have to be asked to, like, okay, within, based on what you just experienced, which one's right? Left or right? In terms of wands, which one is yours? You're literally holding one. There's one you're already holding. There's one you're already connected to. There's one that's sprouting from your hand, that's being held up by your hand. And then there's one that would be reach. You'd have to go get, you know what I mean? You see a future with the one you're connected to. That's what I'm hearing. You see a future with the one you're connected to. It's like maybe each of us is having all these options in front of us, and as it was getting narrowed down, experience after experience, the thing you grab a hold of, the thing you're going to go with, the thing that you've said, okay, Spirit, Two of Wands, I know that this is the path forward for me. And it's because you were connected to them. There were things that were revealing values along the way. I feel like there were 7 experiences or like 7 interactions where it's like, each time I collected this valuable proof that something is growing, because now you really know something was growing between you and it, because it's this big. Your connection to it is this unruly, this abundant. You've got enough proof to know what this is at this point. And so the choice to vibrate, the choice to believe that life vibrates, it doesn't move. Things are just always your vibration, your style, your flavor, you know what I mean? But you want to make it real. You wanted it to be about what was real for you. And there's nothing realer than your vibration. You feel me? So God said, it's also funny because the spiritual test, like, so for me, the spiritual test was between 2 options. And one option is, in theory, pretty disconnected from me, totally describes me and who I really am. So I'm identifying that this could be who I am, but it's not really connected to me, you know? And there may be a little bit of illusions or reach about what I really need. Like, maybe I'm still not really saying, like, who I really am. What would feel like not having to do anything? What would feel like getting abundance back just for living life the way I would want to live life, right? So when I'm looking at those 2 options and I'm feeling the vibration of each of them and I'm aligning to each of those different vibrations, I then stop and I release the resistance, and then I just feel what is my vibration and what just flows to me. Like, and the option that just kind of was in my hand, it was like a kind of thing where this would have never missed me. There's no way. And there's even a little bit of magic in the way that you know, were able to really adjust things just right. And so in terms of options, it was like every single time you really took the time. And this is also what I'm saying, because remember I opened this message up referencing being aware of the perception of others that they have on myself, because I was like looking at something that my husband had released recently and being just like so blown away, just like, what the F word, like, look, kind of one of those things, like sometimes as an artist I feel like you spend a lot of time like not looking, not, at least I do, I spend a lot of time like not looking. I don't want to know. Don't tell me about what I just channeled. I just feel like I'm very sensitive, so it takes a long time for things to kind of like download into my heart chakra. So today I was kind of looking. I found myself like really looking at what it was. And the reality was, it was something, you know? So, really beautiful opening message. And I feel like we're gonna go here next because we got a beautiful spread there. And I just want like one card, you know what I mean? One vibe. And then we'll go to Venetian. It's just corny how like much we used to just like not let ourselves, whatever. You know what I mean? Just be who you are. It's like whatever. Whatever. If you vibrate, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. You know what I mean? But I'm so grateful for the ways that I get to be who I am, you know, for real. This is just such a lucky alignment of energy. Okay, we're gonna go with the one that fell out. You know, it's so funny. Oh my god. So this is this Aries new beginning. Aries, child within, Radhakasite, and Cycles Moonstone. Are you kidding me? This couldn't be more astrological new year. It's fucking crazy. Cycles. Child within. Let's see what the vibes are. So this Cycles card is a wind element. Or that is, Moonstone is, that is. Let me see. Just find. Perfect. Moonstone. Moonstone is a stone of mystery. It has often been associated with the feminine because of its ability to enhance the intuitive and receptive side of the mind. Moonstone is a form of the mineral feldspar. It is usually a gray to white stone, though it also can be found less frequently in yellow to peach colors as well. Moonstone is known for its beautiful chatayancy, which creates a cat's eye effect as bands of light move across its surface. Moonstone has often been associated with the goddess aspect of all that is, and its energy has long been valued in helping one to move closer to the Great Mother. Isn't that crazy? As I said, the root of this message was the Seven of Pentacles, which shows the ways that you are now connecting to these other energies that are gonna and you're gonna all move closer to the Great Mother. Like, you're finding that tribe that you're gonna assemble that's gonna really go live out the joy of taking care of and protecting and healing and growing and commanding our abundance and investing the abundance that's coming into us into the Earth Mother to repair her and make her beautiful and rich, and to really make it the popular thing to do to really get somewhere and do some shit, you know? And its energy has long been valued to helping one move closer to the Great Mother. When Moonstone is employed by females, it initiates the Kundalini energy and promotes the psychic ability of clairvoyance, right? When utilized by males, it stimulates the right side of the brain, encouraging non-linear thinking and emotional balance. In both sexes, its frequency aids in clearing the aura, activating the 6th and 7th chakras, and activating the central chakra column of energy. Moonstone has been used for centuries to connect to the energy and power of the moon. The moon plays a vital role in the health of the Earth Mother. Her tides and rhythms are governed by the pull and release of Moon Woman. The energies of the moon affect people as well. The term lunatic is derived from the base word luna, or moon. The cycles of the moon have a strong effect on the physical beings that inhabit the earth. And I'm really about to just like move into an industry that's going to be extremely governed by the moon. I'm going to be really working with the earth, and because I'm a moon human and I'm affected and I'm really governed by the moon's cycles, and my life is really on the moon cycles, which is why Dennis and I really match well, because he's a Cancer moon and I'm a Taurus moon, and so we really, anyways. The frequency of moonstone encourages us to pay attention to the cycles in our lives. Each cycle that we complete takes us one level higher on the great spiral. So I was here and I'm like, shoo. With each cycle comes our wisdom and understanding, and self-knowledge is increased. Shoo. Shoo. Moonstone asks us to celebrate the milestones and rites of passage that each new cycle brings. Aries season. Just as the moon herself grows full and wanes, so too do aspects of our lives. Like, so exciting. So the message: when moonstone shines her beauty upon you, you are being asked to reflect upon the movement in your life. In the situation you are considering, what part of the great cycle are you in at the moment? Are you at the beginning planting stage, when a seed is just being set? Or has the seed already grown into a young plant, which you are nurturing and helping to grow? Or are you at the harvest, when the fruit has come and is ready to be gathered? Perhaps you are moving into a fallow period, when you are resting and integrating what you have learned from the other cycles. Everything within our lives has its cycle. Attempting to reap what you have just sown is not realistic. There needs to be a period of growth before the fruit can come to harvest. Alternatively, when you really need time to turn inward and rest, attempting to plant and grow a new aspect of your life is not fruitful. Moonstone is calling you to explore which part of the cycle you are currently in and to take the appropriate action. Both Moonstone and the wind element are telling you to honor the current cycle of your life so that you can live more fully through joy. 6. So I felt kind of a trigger energy, and I'll unpack it, but the affirmation says, I move through the cycles of my life with joy and acceptance. So I got kind of triggered, but then I literally had to just slow myself down, right, as I was really reading it, because you are realizing that for the first time something is changing, and it's not a catastrophic event, it's not anything. Like, you think you're going to be met with so much resistance, and you're really not, you know what I mean? And that's just kind of how life goes, and I feel like you're going to be met with so much more acceptance, because I think what's happening is just the change in a cycle. And that's also my medicine for people right now. Like, if you can give anything to the ones around you right now, I would say just give them the affirmation that, like, they are able to move through this cycle with joy. Like, if it's something that you're realizing, like, wow, I really spent some time sitting on this, like, just know we are giving you love and joy to gladly move forward. Like, that cycle is over, and so that opportunity, I see some radical inner child healing. You know what I mean? Because for the first time, this is kind of that energy where, the cycle is really, truly pretty much up, and we have to look at the condition of our inner child, and we're all going to be called to go in a direction forward that includes an expanded, opened up, receptive, and safe inner child, and not a small, balled up, down, shackled inner child. And so when that fire from Aries turns up, which is all about the divine child, does that sensation get really triggery? Do you get burned? Like, what do you really feel? You know what I mean? And I think I got triggered because when I was a child, I would know I was ready for something, or I would be ready to do something, and maybe I felt held back in some way, or felt like the limitations of not being able to, like, go or do and act on something that I knew was for me, or always being met with a limit. And so, when I was reading that, I kind of empathize with that same, like, response, but then I kind of dropped down into the awareness that, like, I'm really excited because you get what you give yourself right now. So if I really thought, like, this is going to be the type of oncoming experience, new beginning, where I'm not ending the end doesn't have to be the focus. Like, sometimes it's just that I'm going on to something really big and new for myself, and everything in your life should just honor that. So, sorry, I'm just like enjoying water right now. Water break. Let's get some notes. So, yeah, maybe I was just like really needing water because of the intensity of this. But yeah, I think this cycles up on this like lack of inner child work. Do you see that call? That was a really beautiful affirmation. Like giving to others at this time that like we're here, you're there to support them to move gracefully. I think we all know someone who maybe, even if it's ourselves, who really needs to like move to let this transition that's inevitably coming. We can't really, there's nothing we can do about it, but there's a transition that's like inevitably coming, and it should be a positive one because you know how life works now. Every transition brings you to further evolution and growth because you've grown through something that you now are ready to harvest, and you're ready to harvest the lessons, whether this moves moving on from a job, a relationship, from a family dynamic, from a dynamic with yourself, from an addiction, whatever it is. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't need to be any of those things at all, but you've cultivated an amount of experiences is what I'm saying. You've gained a certain knowledge that is gifting you something new. So even if it feels like you're losing something in exchange for that new experience, you've got to know that the new experience that you're gaining is more aligned with a natural state that embodies and empowers the part of you that doesn't want to be refined, that doesn't really need anybody else's input on who the fuck you are. Excuse my language, but that's what Aries brings out of me right now. All this red in the image, I hope you guys are picking up. This is the ways that we just feel like, oh, like I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. Like that Aries. So send that energy out, you know what I mean? For real, send that energy out. I'm gonna just raise this so I can straighten my back without it being super obnoxious, but yeah. You know, send that energy out. Send that energy outwards. And really just like allow yourself to create a reality where you don't really need other people. Like go where you can all flow in the stream. It doesn't have to be conflicting. Me trying to be me doesn't have to mean anything for you. You being you shouldn't have to mean anything or any entanglement for me or any disempowering or any like, you know, you're just a kid, like that kind of energy. Like go where that side of you that wants to also feel safe and vulnerable, like you've got to know that, where it's not really some ego of expertise, you know what I mean? And in that way you can really make sense of that like time on the boat, because the boat, you know, rowing through that intuitive kind of strength and conditioning. Oh my gosh, Dennis is calling. We'll post this video in 2, or actually